Good evening everybody, Calm Biker here. On a nice evening, just dodging rain showers. Just been doing a bit of little job on the bike. Seems to be the way at the minute, but this is, for this bike at least, the last job. I have one more job to do on the other one, which is to fit it with a fender extender. But I'm going to try and carbon wrap it first. But I noticed the other day some paint damage on the bottom of the engine where stones get flicked up. This is on the Z, so repainted that area, but I want to stop it happening again, so a bit of a fender extender, see if that helps. But the job I've just done on this one, I've just spent the last hour or so fitting a chain oiler. And after fitting it, I have to admit I am not terrified, but certainly trepidatious, because I've tried to set it up. I've not bought one of these fancy Dan Scott oilers. One, because the electrical ones just seem excessively expensive, and the other reason, two in fact, would be the other version involves cutting things on the bike that I don't really want to cut. The old vacuum-y driven one. And giving me a Stanley knife and saying, have a cut at something on an engine, seems like so stupid that even I won't ask me to do it. So I've fitted this oiler, and I've got the Tutoro one. Not to be confused with my neighbour Tutoro, da 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 da, which is very odd and worth a watch. And it's a British made one, and it seems quite clever, assuming it does what it's supposed to do. It's got a little reservoir, what you fill up with oil, and depending on your flow rate, that little reservoir is supposed to last between 1,000 miles and 1,500 miles or something. So means you don't have to remember to keep oiling your chain in between, or lubing your chain I should say. Although in this case it is oiling, because it is an oil it's using, not like a wax or a dry lube. And then it's got a rubber tube that runs round to a little head that you mount on the swing arm, and the head's kind of got two prongs, and one sits either side of your rear sprocket, and it dribbles oil onto the rear sprocket on both sides of the sprocket, and then it kind of forces it into the right place to lubricate around the O-rings, and also to clean your chain. I mean, to be fair, you know, these are sealed chains, so it's more about making sure they're clean than it is about lubricating them, really, because the lubrication's, well, it's locked in, isn't it? But of course, as these things wear over time, that lubrication can escape, I suppose, and it might help avoid that kind of thing, and it might help the O-rings not decay as quickly, I don't know. And the thing that seems to be clever about it is it's not electrical, it's not vacuumable, and it's not manual. I did buy a manual chain oiler that I've never fitted, mainly because once I bought it I couldn't think of anywhere to put it. I bought it when I had the Z750R, and I just couldn't think of anywhere to put it. I might have a look and see if I can fit it on the Z1000, but that one, basically the tube is full of oil, but because of the magic of physics, the oil won't come out until you give an intake of air at the cylinder-y, container-y thing that's full of oil at the top. So they say on that one, when you're a few miles away from home, press the button at the top of it and hold it for a few seconds, and that lets a measured amount of oil out, and then in that last couple of miles it'll oil your chain, which seems quite clever. This one though, the Tutoro, is a whole heap cleverer, allegedly. So it has two chambers in its little oil container, oil reservoir. One where you fill it up with oil, and then the oil flows out of that into another one. and there's a valve that restricts the flow, so you can set the flow rate. But there's also a valve that's basically, it's a magnet. Sorry, no, it's not. It's a piece of metal on a stick. You use a magnet to open it when you're filling it and priming it for the first time. It's a magnet. A magnet. I'm saying it again. It's a metal weight on a stick, and as you're riding, that weight kind of vibrates up and down, which opens the chamber and lets oil out. And when the bike stops, it falls into place and shuts the chamber, so no oil can get out. So basically, it only works when you're riding, but without having to be electrical or vacuumable or anything like that. I suppose it would probably be a problem if you were trailering the bike. You'd have to remember to turn the valve completely shut on the flow rate control. So I guess if you're towing the bike on a trailer, that vibration would make it leak all of the oily goo out. It is oily goo as well. It's weird. It's definitely oil. It flows quite easily, but it's really sticky as well. When you fill up the reservoir the first time and pull the little filling bottle away, it didn't have to leave a long trail behind it. Reminds you of a toddler with his first cold, if you know what I mean. Anyway, so back to the reason I'm really nervous. I've never had an automatic chain oiler before. All I've ever done is either spray on or brush on lubricants. When I say brush on, I had a dabble with machine oil and a brush, but I gave up on that pretty quickly because it just flung everywhere, despite being a recommendation. And the other ones have been a spray on normal spray or a brush on chain wax. But I thought I'd try these chain oilers, and as I say, I'm now trepidatious. Try saying that when you're drunk, because the thing's oiling the chain by itself, and I'm wary now. On every left-hander, I'm thinking, have I got oil on my tyre, and is the back going to step out? Now I have stopped. You're supposed to do a 20-minute ride and then check. I went for about 2 minutes and then checked, just to make sure it wasn't absolutely peeing it out. And I stopped after about 15 minutes, and the chain didn't look particularly wet, but it definitely had a layer. So when I touched it, you could feel this kind of slightly gooey. It's not sticky like a chain wax, it's gooey. So it's definitely putting something out there. And then I kind of looked at my rim, and there's definitely a little bit of fling into the rim. Now according to the book, it says there should be some fling. It says seeing some fling on the chain guard, maybe on the swing arm, maybe on the rim, and even a small amount on the sidewall of the tyre. A very small amount, it does say, I have to say, is normal. Obviously anything on the treaded area of the tyre, or the edge, up to the sidewall, because these tyres don't have any tread on the last kind of 3/4 of an inch or so, but anything that's on the surface that will touch the road, obviously a problem, and then turn it down. But a little bit on the sidewall, which I haven't got, is normal. And apparently you should have fling. If you don't have any fling, you're not using enough oil. Now some might say, especially me, because I'm cynical, that that's just a way of wasting oil and getting you to buy more. But they do put a reason in, and the reason does have some logic to it, that this oil is not just there to lubricate, it is there to clean the chain. And if you don't have oil flinging off in small amounts, then you haven't got enough to actually run right through the chain and clean off the any grit and junk that's got on there. And on this bike it really does get a lot of grit and junk on there. So you need it enough to get it through and chuck that stuff off as well. Otherwise the goo will turn into a grinding paste, I suppose it'd be like a very harsh policing compound, and you don't want that against your O-rings, do you? So I have a question at the end of all this for all of those of you who use chain oilers. If you've got a manual one, if you've got a Scott oiler, or if you've gone down the route I've gone down with something like a Tutoro, especially if you've gone down a Tutoro route, how have you set it up? Do you have a lot of fling? How much is actually normal? Because it is a bit of a worry, because it doesn't take a lot on the surface of your tyre to have you off on a left-hander, because the chain's on the left-hand side, not on the right. And coming off on a left-hander could well be a lot more dangerous than coming off on a right-hander if there's a truck coming the other way. So I'm intrigued to know how people set these things up. Please let me know in them there comments. Anyway, thanks for watching everyone. Thanks for your comments in advance. I really do appreciate these things. I don't ask these questions just for a video. I ask them because I really want to know the answers. Or on some other videos because I really want other people's opinions. So thanks for watching, ride safe, and I'll talk to you all again soon. There is the Tutoro there, and chain is slightly damp. As you can see, maybe there is a little bit of fling on the rim. Doesn't seem to have got as far as... Oh, has it hit the tyre? That's just a bit of rubber. Ah, it has. It has got onto the tyre and onto the edge. So I'll turn it down a bit and try again.